Hey, vegan cyclists. So today we're going to talk about how to stay with guys faster than you. I'm going to milk this for everything it's worth, but I got to ride with Levi Leipheimer and Phil Guyman, and I'm not faster than them by any means. I'm not even that great of a rider, period. But I was able to stick with them to the top of the climb, get a cool little video with Phil, take some pictures. It was awesome. And I used some techniques that I want to share with you. So here are 5 tips on how to stay with riders faster than you. Let's get it. Alright, so the 5 tips are managing your energy, position, alternating muscle groups, conversation, and data. Now obviously these 5 tips aren't going to increase your watts by 100 or 200. It's not going to make you an amazing rider, but it can make those marginal gains that can make a huge difference. There are times where you might have gotten dropped 1 minute or 2 minutes before the top, and that was the whole difference, right? Or ways that you can apply these techniques and have a funner ride or more enjoyable ride with guys way out of your league. Because it is super duper important to ride with people faster than you. Like if you're always riding with people slower than you, you're not gonna get better. It's just how it is. We need to overreach as cyclists and athletes and humans. And so let's ride with faster guys, but let's go through some techniques to help you make it more enjoyable or to stay on just a little bit longer. And maybe you can stay with that front group, the lead group, the top dogs in no time. Okay, so managing your energy, duh, right? Seems obvious that if you're going to ride with guys way faster than you, that you're going to manage your energy. But this is not what we practice. We preach it, we don't practice it. I've done this as a rider, riding with people that are way faster than me. I look at them, I respect them, I think they're awesome, so then I try to impress them. I go to the front and I drill it. I take 2 or 3 times as long of pulls. We hit a small climb and I go off the front or whatever. I try to show them that I'm not weak. I try not breathing. When we're all riding, I'm holding in my breath because I don't want them to think I'm suffering. I mean, this is a common mentality as a beginning rider riding with experienced riders to kind of try not to look like you're weak. And it's a huge mistake. And it's honestly, if you're trying to earn the respect of guys on the rides that you look up to, managing your energy is going to be a much better way than to go on the front and do and then you get to the climb and you get dropped. No good. Don't take those big pulls. Don't try to flex your arms. Take your pulls. Don't be a D-hole and skip. But when you do, take a small one. Take one that's not as hard. You don't have to try to show everyone how strong you are. Just make your pull, get back in line, conserve your energy. A game that I've played is I'll look at my power meter and I will do my best to get the lowest amount of watts possible to the big climb, right? I'm like trying my best to spend no energy. Stay in the back, don't go off the front, those sorts of things. Manage that energy. The second thing is position. So position is super important for 2 different reasons. One, on your way out to a big climb on the flats, you're gonna wanna stay in the back, obviously. But I've seen guys, brand new riders, they're very uncomfortable with being on the wheel, so even though they're in the back, they're 4 or 5 bike lengths off the back. And so you're not getting as much energy savings as you should, especially if your fitness is not to the caliber of everyone you're riding with. You need as many handicaps as possible just to finish the ride. So stay close to the wheel, the person in front of you, stay in the back, stay sheltered. Think about where the wind is coming from. If the wind is on your left, it's kind of coming at an angle. Try to get on the right. A lot of times you'll ride 2x2 and the guys on the left side are just getting smashed by wind and the guys on the right side aren't. So don't let the guy super strong be in the wind. That order needs to be flipped, right? And especially when you're on the climb. When you're about to hit the climb, this is really important. Be the first one on the climb. Be at the front of the group, especially if it's a big group. 30, 40, 50 guys, it's really gonna play into your favor to have some slipping room. Now obviously don't destroy yourself to get to the front of the pack before the climb, because that kind of makes no sense when talking about managing energy. But if you start the climb and there's 20 guys behind you, if you start to blow up and you need a little bit of a break, you can use that slipping room to slow down get your breath and fall to the back of the pack. And sometimes that's all you need, just a little bit, 30 seconds of not pinning it to recoup. Or if it's a really big group and it's a small climb, you can start the climb and go, say, 11 miles an hour, where everyone else is going 12 miles an hour. And by the time you get to the back of the pack, you might have already crested the hill. So yeah, you went from the front to the back, you've lost a lot of time, but you're still with the group. And then on the descent, you can kind of regroup and that sort of thing. So position, don't be in the wind, and on the climbs, start up front so you can fall back through the pack and conserve that energy. All right, so this is really important, and this is something that when I learned this, it really helped me out. That's alternating your muscle groups. Most of us use like our main quads, right? Like the front of our legs, and we just hammer, hammer, hammer. And this kind of goes into maybe pedal stroke or pedal efficiency. But if you're not as strong as everyone else, you're going to want to try to shift around your muscle groups, your active muscle groups. Use your calf muscles, your hamstrings, your quads, your core, your back, doing everything you can to try to shift the muscles that are being active around so that they have more time to recover. And this takes practice, for sure. It is more of a full pedal stroke. It's more actively thinking about how you're lifting up on the pedals. But you can do this without thinking too much just by changing up the way you're riding. Standing, sitting, high cadence, low cadence. I mean, all these things are going to recruit a different set of muscle groups. So for example, when I start a climb, I will start at a very high cadence, 90 to 100, and I use my my internal motor, my heart. I load that up with most of the required amount of energy. And then as I start, my heart rate starts to get really high and I'm like having a hard time breathing. I'll click down maybe to like 60 RPMs, and then I'll stand and I'll do much more of a muscular endurance, muscular strength type movement, so that now I'm pushing that energy into my muscles and I'm letting my heart rate come down, catching my breath, and as soon as my muscles start to blow up, I will then drop down and go back into a high cadence. I flip between those, standing, sitting, high cadence, low cadence. A trick that I've used is to say I'm gonna stand for 1 minute and sit for 1 minute. And then so you also have these little bite-sized pieces, these goals that are right close to you. You can just, okay, I'm just gonna sit for 1 minute, and you just do that pace, and then you have like a reward. I get to stand for 1 minute. That will help you recruit different muscles and possibly be able to elongate the ride, the climb, the amount of power you're able to put out. Sit, stand, high cadence, low cadence, all those things, using your calf muscles and your hamstrings to delegate more of the required energy to other things so you don't just get super fatigued in one muscle group. All right, so the fourth thing, and this is kind of cheeky or like starting a conversation. Okay, sometimes if you're riding, and this would be like a small group, like 2 guys, you and one other guy, very small group. If you spark up a conversation, especially if it's like, you could say, what are your thoughts on the current political system? Really in depth on that topic. And their conversational pace, because they're gonna have to talk, so they can't go super hard, might be your max pace. So then you'll both be able to ride together, and you don't have to say, hey, can you slow down? Hey, can you wait for me? Because no one likes to do that. But if you spark up a conversation and you lean it to more one-sided, right? You let them do a lot of the talking. You can focus more on your riding, and then it will sort of handicap them. And so they're having a good time because they're not thinking that they're just waiting for you. And then you might have a great conversation. And I don't know. It's honestly a tactic I've used a lot. When guys are saying, hey, I want to go slow. I want to take it easy. Maybe even my fitness is better than the person I'm riding with. But my training program is zone 1 or zone 2 on this climb. And they may be going really hard. I'll spark up a conversation with them as to make sure that we're kind of both on the same page and that we're riding at the same pace. Now, don't get too in depth in the conversation, because your conversational pace is definitely not, their conversational pace, right? If your fitness is not equally matched. So bring up some heavy topics like, what do you think about the vegan cyclist? Kind of crazy, right? And then let them chat your ear off while you're suffering internally and they're not. You guys will be side by side. All right, fifth thing, super important thing, and that's data. Data. The more data, the better your life is gonna be. So this might be power meter, heart rate, but it doesn't even have to be that. It can be information on the climb, on the route. How big is the route? How long is the route? Where is the points on the route that everyone attacks? How long are the climbs? Where are the rest stops? This will help you out huge because maybe you are on the brink of just complete explosion. You're redlining. But if you know that there's a gas station, 1 mile up the road, 2 miles up the road, and that's where everyone's gonna stop, you can sort of force yourself and bait yourself into going a little bit harder for a little bit longer because you know that you're gonna get a rest. If you have no data on how big the ride is, where the climbs are, most likely you're gonna go way too hard. Or that when I've been on a climb, I've never known what the climb was, first time on the climb, and it's like every turn, you're like, where's the finish? Where's the finish? It's gotta be around here somewhere. It never comes, right? So knowing your route, knowing the guys you're riding with, check out their Strava. How strong are they, right? Sort of getting a good gauge of if you're even able to hang with these guys at all. And again, power meters, heart rates, with enough time using a power meter, you'll be able to map out a really clear projection of what you are capable of doing. So if you've never done 200 watts for 3 hours before, and you're 10 minutes into the ride, and your average is 300 watts, like obviously you know that you're gonna have to start slowing down when you hit a climb. If you've known your best ever power on that climb is 250 watts, and you're halfway through the climb and you're at 300 watts, you're not about to smash some amazing PR. You're about to blow into pieces. So you can, at that point, say you start a climb and you know your best is 250. If you just manage 250, that's gonna be your best overall shot at staying with their group. Even if they drop you instantly, even if they're totally gone, your overall time from bottom to top is gonna be shorter than if you stay with them halfway and then explode and have to stop and puke, right? Then they're gonna be waiting for you for much longer. And then you've gone way too in the red, way too deep, and then the rest of the ride, you're just waxed. So with the right data, you can stay within your own zone, within your level of fitness, and your ride for you will be much more enjoyable. So look, it's super simple. Manage your energy, think about position, alternate your muscles and standing position, seating position, cadence, that sort of thing. Spark up conversations if you need, and obviously know as much about what you're getting into and what your performance is as possible. These things will 100% help you stick with people on the ride that are much faster than you. But don't get intimidated. Ride with those guys that are faster than you. Getting dropped is not a bad thing. It's not. Getting dropped will help you increase your ability to suffer. It'll help your fitness, because when you're getting dropped, you're being forced to increase your performance or increase your fitness. I have a video kind of here about increasing your pain threshold sort of thing. Check that out if you want. And to leave off on one note, because on this ride, I started about halfway into or a quarter way into the ride. So I was super fresh when I was riding with these guys. And if your fitness level is much lower than some of the other guys, and you never really even make it to the big climb, or it's not, like, start somewhere else. If the route comes through and there's a lot of flats and then the climbs start, maybe start right before the climbs so you're really, really fresh and everyone else isn't. That might help you get to kind of see and ride right next to guys that you look up to or admire. I mean, I've done it. Whatever you can, ride with guys faster than you, and you're gonna get better, but sometimes they're so much faster than you. So start 20 minutes into the ride, an hour into the ride, whatever it is, find a different location to hook up with them, or an exit location that's not all the way to the back, so that your overall ride and amount of energy is much less, so that you can go at a much higher level intensity, because you're not worrying about doing 4 hours. That'd be another way. Bonus tip. Guys, thank you so much. Vegan Cyclist. Yeah.